Life is a Marathon, session 259. Welcome to the Life is a Marathon show. I'm Bruce Van Horn. This is where you'll embrace insight, wisdom, and inspiration to help you restore passion, purpose, and vision for your marathon of life. Well, folks, I have been waiting for this interview for a long time. I am so excited to be sharing today's guest with you today. And just before I pressed the record button, I told her that I feel like I've known her most of her life. I at least started hearing all about her when she was a very young teenager. But I have on Skype, it is my privilege to be talking with the amazing Rachel Cruz, who is Dave Ramsey's daughter, and she is just doing amazing things. I've heard Dave talk about Rachel and her sister and her brother for so long that it has just been so great to connect with her, and she is just out there changing lives in an amazing way. And while she's doing work that is tangentially related to what her dad does and the whole Ramsey megalopolis that has become that industry of Dave Ramsey in changing lives, she's taking it in her own direction, and it's been so fun to watch her find not only her own new name, but also to find her voice and her audience and to connect in just an amazingly special way that is independent of her dad. So it's fun as parents to see our children go off and do their thing and shine. And Rachel, you are doing that. So welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you, Bruce. That's such a nice introduction. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for having me on. I was telling you earlier how we've connected via social media, and I've seen your picture, I feel like, all the time on social stuff. So it's actually fun when they said that I was doing this interview with you today. I was like, oh, good. Like, I actually get to talk to them. So thank you.
I know it is.
I really appreciate it.
It is so much fun. And so, like I said, I've watched you come up. I've heard your dad tell stories, and I'm sure often embarrassing stories. I'm sure you're like,
yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like being raised a pastor's kid, right? Could you just not
I know.
share that from the pulpit,
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's fun, and but what's more fun is to have watched you, like I said, mature and find your own voice and to reach out to people of your peer group, which is so important. Because that's where we all we all need a voice for the people that are within our own range. But I love what you're doing, because in my line of work, which is ultimately very much related to what you do, my goodness, if I had known when I was a teenager or in college, or let's just say if I had known any time before I turned 42 years old, the things that you're teaching now, who's to say how different my life would be? Now, I understand that God has a path for all of us, and now I have experienced the things in my life that have brought me to where I am, and I can now speak to audiences that are huge through those experiences. But I love that you're reaching out to younger people to try to save them from the pains that I went through in my early and adult life.
Well, good. Well, thanks. That's something I feel like I hear all the time, is that, like, if only I had known this when I was younger. And I think now, as I'm growing up, I'm like, that relates to money. It also relates to parenting and so many aspects of marriage, life, whatever it is. And so just being able to get healthy messages of wisdom to the younger generation as soon as possible, and even those who may have missed it, but no matter where they are in their walk, to be able to intersect that information and really change their lives.
Yeah, if you are breathing, it's not too late.
It's exactly right. Exactly.
If you can breathe, it is not too late to start doing something. So you have a new book coming out that I'm very excited about, and I adore the title. Oh my goodness, I love the title because it's a theme that is so recurrent, not just centered around money, but around every aspect of our lives. This whole comparison game is just a no-win proposition. I mean, whether it's people trying to start their own businesses or people trying to start a health or fitness program, we look over at somebody and we think, oh, well, they've got it so easy, or they've got the perfect marriage, or they've got the perfect job, or whatever. And nobody's life is perfect but your own, to the extent that you decide to make it. And so your book it's coming out on October 3rd. It's called Love Your Life, Not Theirs. And this is, of course, not the first book that you have written, and you are no stranger to the New York Times bestseller list.
Oh gosh, which makes me so nervous.
Well,
this new book,
okay,
I'm like, oh,
that's
who knows what it'll
so,
do, but
it's all good. Yeah.
Don't compare it, right? I won't compare this book to the other book. We'll just
exactly
mix the comparisons all around.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, we have to do at least like 2 minutes of what it was like growing up Ramsey.
I know, yes.
Okay.
It's like
Can you do that?
Yes. Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's funny. I feel like people assume growing up as Dave Ramsey's kid that all we did was talk about money. And I joke, I'm like, it's not like we had mutual fund parties and like budget camps on the weekends. Like none of that happened. But mom and dad, they were very intentional in teaching us how money works. And for that, I'm forever grateful. But I really do. I give kudos to them so much. I mean, on the parenting
Absolutely.
side, people always were like, oh, did you feel different, or, whatever it may be because of Dave Ramsey, quote unquote. And so my answer is true. I'm like, no, like mom and dad stayed so grounded in their own personal marriage, walk, lifestyle, whatever it was. I mean, they really did. They stayed so grounded. And so as an effect to that, I think as kids, that's what we saw. That's what was modeled for us. And so they were incredible parents all around, and thankfully they were not overly obsessed with money, and our conversations did not always revolve around money.
And you were not born with a silver spoon in your mouth. They did not give you, well, and even, when you arrived on the scene, your dad was not as hugely successful as he is now. And so much of that success, you've grown up with your dad growing into who he has become now too. So
yeah, absolutely. I was actually born the year they filed for bankruptcy. And so my whole life, has been this front row seat of watching them literally start from nothing in a financial hole to working their way up. And along the way, just instilling these basic money principles in us kids, like, money comes from work. Money doesn't come from mom and dad's back pockets.
Exactly.
You're not a human ATM. You have to be a giver if you're going to win in life. You have to save. You have to spend wisely. I mean, all of these basic common sense things really were ingrained in us. And that's why I love the first book, Smart Money, Smart Kids, because being able to back from my memory and be able to give parents the tools and the practical application to teach their kids how money works was such a huge blessing and really an honor to do, because gosh, talking about the generation before, I'm like, oh, parents have an amazing platform in their kids' lives to affect them on so many levels and so many issues, but money is missed so often. So being able to give them the right application, the real world experience, so that they can go off on their own and they can win, I mean, is truly changing your family tree. And so being able to take that message and kind of paying it forward from what I grew up with is so fun.
Yeah.
And I love it.
You bought a pretty cool car when you were 16 too, didn't you?
I did. I know. I always tell people, I'm like, it was used. It wasn't as fancy as it sounds, but yeah, we did the 401 Dave plan. So we had
the 401 Dave.
Yeah, so whatever we matched, they would, whatever we saved, they would match. And so I saved $8,000. So I got a $16,000 car, paid for with cash at 16. And so I got I think it was a 2001 black BMW.
I love it.
It was super, so fun. And I had so much pride in that car, when I got in, I was
right.
So I told my friends, you can't drink Sonic Diet Cokes in the back seat. I don't want any drinks in my car. I'm keeping this clean, because I worked so hard for it. So it was a fun goal to have as a teenager, and be able to accomplish that was huge.
Yeah, and I love that. I have two boys myself. They're 19 and 13.
Okay.
And the things that they pay for themselves, they value so much. My youngest is really into fashion.
Yes.
My oldest could just really care less what he wears or whatever, but my youngest is really into fashion and shoes, and we buy the tennis shoes, but they're not for playing in. They're
Yeah.
for you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yes.
And he'll come home and I'll find him in his room with a cloth rubbing some dirt off of them,
So
and
funny. Oh,
it is so much fun.
so
So,
great.
love your life, not theirs. What's this all about?
Yes, well, I'm so excited about this book because I think it does. It pushes head on into the subject that so many of us struggle with, and it is this idea of comparisons. And it was this theme that I kept seeing over and over and over for really many years, whether it was talking to people when I was speaking or my own friends or even my own life, looking and being like, gosh, this subject affects our money more than we realize. And it just keeps bubbling up to the surface. And I'm like, I just want to like squash it. And so being able to write a book to say, I want people to be in a position where you can say, this is my life, this is my money, this is my family, these are my values. And I want people to own that and say, I want people out there to love their life, not everyone else's. And so being able to give people permission and the steps to do that, I think lays a great foundation in order to build good money habits to live the life they want. And so that's really the foundational habit for me. The first one is quit the comparisons. And so getting that habit in place, building that foundation, because above that is when you can really, I believe, win with the money. Because ultimately, when you're content with your life and you're not, the comparison may seep in every now and then, but ultimately you can defeat that battle and win that battle. It's able to set you up to do things with your money. I believe, again, to do things that you value within your family.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak firsthand to the whole comparison piece where, we've got to keep up with our neighbors. We've got to up level to the next house because some of our best friends just moved out of our neighborhood and moved into the nicer neighborhoods. We've got to do that too, or we've got to, my goodness, the money that we spend on, private schools, or, they've got to play on this special soccer team, not
Yes.
just the regular YMCA team that
Yeah.
costs $20.
That's right.
No, they've got to play on the private club, and yeah,
It's
and
hard.
it's
And
just a no-win proposition
you're
too.
exactly right. Exactly right. And what's so hard is I look back and I'm like, 30 years ago, this idea of keeping up with the Joneses, you actually had to see the Joneses in person, or you had to see them at church and talk to them and hear about their life. But
I
today, I mean,
love
very,
where you're going with this.
yeah, in our back pockets via
Yes.
social media. And so it's this window into everyone's life. And it's something that I don't think my parents' generation necessarily struggled with. I think they are now, but it's not like they struggled with that when they were, 20, 30 years old. And so it's kind of this whole new world. And what's so hard, and the battle I keep wanting to fight people against and give people the willpower to tell them, like, what you're seeing on social media, it's not the whole picture. Like, it's everyone's highlight reel. So you put the picture of the great soccer team,
Uh,
and then
Right.
we're moving into the
We
new
have to.
house with the granite countertops in the kitchen. Like, right? I mean, like, everything is so
Yes,
great.
our Instagram posts are curated.
Yeah,
We
exactly. It's
we
just filtered for
handpick,
them. Yeah, I mean,
right?
it's pretty unbelievable. And so just to realize the reality of like, these are not people, this is not the entire picture. Like, you're not seeing possibly the second mortgage they took out on that home to redo that kitchen to get those kitchen granite countertops, or you're not seeing the vacation credit cards, the bills that
Oh
are
my
coming back to
goodness.
them. I mean, you don't see those things, and the marriage fights that come out of that. So I think being
And
mature and
it
growing up and saying, hey, listen, I can be happy from them for afar, that's fine. But if I try to model my life off of everyone else's highlight reel, it's probably going to end up being discontent and in debt, spending money I don't have to
yeah.
keep up this lifestyle.
And I again, I confess that I fall victim to that sometimes. Well,
Me
I don't.
too. We're
I
just
it
over
it
tonight.
yeah. Well, I stroke. My audience will wait. Their ears will perk and say, "Bruce, victim? No, I'm responsible for every one of my decisions."
Right.
But I find myself because I'm a single dad of
Yes.
of two boys,
Yes.
and so sometimes I'll be on Facebook or whatever, and I'll be looking at friends who have gone away for the weekend or done stuff, or they've gone to these amazing places. And some of it, it's like, oh, well, I really wish I could take my boys to Tahiti. But some of it is, well, we spent the weekend at home really not doing too much while our friends, they went hiking in the mountains this weekend. I could have done that.
Yes.
And so there is that comparison. So some of it's good in that it will remind me, hey, I can get my boys out of the house and we could drive an hour to the mountains and go for a hike. That's a good thing.
Yes,
But then saying, oh, you know what? I need to pull out my credit card and take my boys to Tahiti because some of their friends' parents just did that too.
Right,
And
right, exactly. Yeah. So I think having the maturity to decipher those two things is huge. I think that's a great point because I don't think all social media is bad, and I don't want to blame
no, not at all.
but I do think it's that vehicle which can take us down the road to comparison, and you just have to be
And it
careful.
sets us up to thinking that people don't
Right.
struggle with the self-esteem issues or with the finance issues
Yeah.
or what. I mean, how many times have we just been in utter shock when we saw a couple that on social media had the perfect marriage or the whatever,
Yep.
and we find out they've separated? You're like,
Yes.
what?
Yeah, it's like
No.
everything was perfect. I thought everything was great. Yes, I know, exactly. So yeah, being able to really combat that idea of comparison is huge when it comes to your money because content.
Do you have some specific tips for us on how I mean, adults. I mean, I'm 52, but how can everybody,
Yeah.
how what can we do to eliminate some of this comparison game?
Yeah, well, for me, there's one word that embodies so much in this that has helped me personally, and that is gratitude. Just
Amen, sister.
yes. And so I look, I'm like, a heart that's filled with gratitude, there is no room for discontentment and comparisons. I mean, when you are
Right.
grateful for what you have, it's amazing the contentment that comes along right beside that. And so, honestly, for me, and it's hard because comparison and contentment, they're all kind of heart issues almost. It's not like, oh, to get out of debt, here's the numbers you need to face and whatnot. It's very
Oh,
much more of an emotional issue. And so for me, I'm like, to have anything tactical in place helps me. So honestly, on my iPhone, I have every morning, I have the notes icon on my iPhone. And every morning, I'm not perfect at it. I try to be consistent, but I click it and I have a gratitude list, a running list. And I just type down 2 things I'm grateful for. And that's it. So that's the first thing I do because I found myself starting my
you must listen to my podcast.
Is that what you do that?
I teach this all the time.
Okay, then yes,
I teach
exactly
people
right.
to start their day with a gratitude list and end it with a victory log.
Oh my gosh, Bruce, we're the same. I didn't even know.
I know.
It's a great idea. Yeah. So the gratitude list, yeah, it's huge. And just probably like what you talk about on this so much. And I was victim to the idea, or not victim, I shouldn't say that, but I was in the habit of
Right.
going on social media and checking emails and text messages, and before I'd even put on my glasses, I'd have my phone up to my face doing these things. So just starting this,
Yeah.
one of my friends started her gratitude list and she put it on social media. So she would post once a week, just something she was grateful for. And I was like, that's so good. What a great exercise. So yeah, your gratitude list, which you came up with, I'll say the follower.
Well, it's not original to me. That predates even Napoleon Hill and his book Think and
There
Grow
you
Rich.
Yeah,
I think
that's
he learned it from Andrew Carnegie in the
good.
20s.
Yes. Oh, but it's
So,
amazing what gratitude will do in your life. So again, for
absolutely.
me, that really is my tactical battle because when I do see, oh my gosh, so and so in their career is doing this or hanging out with this person, I'm like, oh, that'd be fun to be there. Or as a mom, I'm like, oh my gosh, like the mom guilt and all of that is just crazy.
I've got to sidetrack you for just a second.
Yeah.
Do you follow Pauletta Waltz on Twitter or Instagram?
Oh,
She on Twitter, I think on Instagram, she's just Pauletta Waltz, but
yeah.
on Instagram, her handle is 5 things a day,
Oh,
and there's a hashtag 5 things a day, and she's encouraging people to post on Twitter 5 things for which you're grateful for right now.
oh, I love
It is just so cool.
That's so great. So great. Yeah, I'm glad you gave her that shout out because that's huge. I mean, just yeah, spreading that message of being able just to be grateful. So for me again, that's big.
Yeah.
And even little things, I found myself to be that friend in my friends' lives that's excited for them when things happen. So when they get a
Yes.
raise or they get to move into that great house they've been saving for, they get to upgrade the car, whatever it is, that it's not this awkward, like, I'm like, no, tell me, like, I want to know these things because I want to be able to be excited for you. Because I found when I can be excited for people, again, that just
Yes.
brings joy and contentment in my life. And so I really do want to be that friend, because it is hard. Because I know for my own life, I'm like, yeah, like when something fun happens, you want to share it with someone. And if everyone's just like, oh my gosh, get you,
Yeah.
or whatever.
One of my favorite
Yeah.
phrases is what I want for myself, I want for everyone.
Yes.
And so when I see you, hit the number one best-selling, New York Times, that's what I want for myself. But I don't like, Rachel beat me to it. No,
Right. Right.
I'm thrilled
Yeah.
for you,
Oh,
and I'm thrilled for everybody who does it. And it's just such a healthy way to, so if you are going to do the comparison, let's compare joys
exactly.
and share them.
Yep.
Love that.
100%. Yep, exactly. So yeah, so those kind of things I think for me, but it is, and I think just to be aware of when it creeps in, because sometimes it can creep in. And for me, social media, I'll be looking through and within 20 minutes have passed and I've looked through the same pictures over and over and I'm like, wait, and your brain's kind of foggy and I'm like, well, what am I doing? So just being aware of, I think, how much you're on it, how much you're letting it affect your life, and just having those boundaries within yourself if you need to. Is huge because again, you're doing all of this to lay this foundation where you're not having to compare your life to everyone else's, the car they're driving, vacations they're taking, houses they're living in. Get to a place where you're content with where you are, and not apathy or laziness. You can still be having goals and driving towards something, but having peace of where you're at, having that foundation before we build on that on other money habits is tremendous, and it's key and it's needed, because if not, it's going to be shaky and all this you're going to do with your money, no matter how much you budget or how much you try to get out of debt. When you're not content and grateful for your life, things seem to shatter.
Absolutely. And I know you talk about it all the time, is when you're doing the comparison thing, when you're chasing, what somebody else has, you're not living your life. And it was actually, again, I went through a really difficult time most of my adult life, but I came to a point where I was 42 years old and was seriously considering ending my life. And one of the pivotal moments for me was a friend of mine said, Bruce, we're holding a Financial Peace University class at our church. Would you please come? And I did not want to go. I couldn't afford to go. And so they gave it to me for free, but I went anyway. But just this idea that I know you and your dad and everyone in your organization talks about personal responsibility, personal accountability. And we get into this mode where life just happens to us. And yeah, well, this thing happened and that happened. And one of the phrases I've used so often, I learned it from your dad. It's happened to your life instead of life happening to you. And when you set aside the chasing after what somebody else has, that's a surefire way to let things happen to you. When you decide what it is you want and how you are going to go about getting that in a responsible way that doesn't put you at risk to the shifts of the market or the loss of a job, this. So why for your generation is it so important? Why can't we just live for the now? And why do we need to have that kind of plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's key to be able to, I'll use your term, your marathon, right?
Right, the
Yes,
marathon of
yeah,
life, right.
absolutely. Of being able to sustain and get to where you're going. Because if it's constantly in the moment, then you don't have goals. You're not reaching for something. What's getting you out of bed in the morning? I mean, you really do want to say, hey, this is where I want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And the instant gratification pill that so many people take is the avenue of debt. And it's like, well, I want this, I need some new clothes. I don't really have the money to buy it from the store, but I'm going to buy it anyway. Charge on the credit card, or the new car, or the vacation, whatever it is. And what happens is that those decisions you make in the present are going to affect you in the future. And so you have to decide, hey, am I wanting the bank to control my income, or do I want to control my income by not owing anyone anything? And so there is a whole ripple effect of this debt mentality. And so being able to say, hey, I'm going to have the patience to save up and pay for things. It may take a little bit longer, but you're going to do it with the wherewithal of, hey, this is where I'm going. And that's the thing about the book as well. As we talk about these healthy money habits, is I don't want people to think that just because you live on a budget and you choose not to live with debt, that doesn't mean you have to like sit in your house all day, collect coupons and you're never allowed to go shopping. Like, you can still have a great life and enjoy life and be wise with your money. And in fact, when you are wise with your money, that's more opportunity that you're going to probably get to do some really great things. And so just being intentional with that. So doing the budget, getting out of debt, being able to give, spend wisely. I mean, all of the above is huge. And it doesn't mean that you don't get to live a great life and do these things. It may take more time, but you're doing it in a way where it doesn't own you. You get to own your decisions.
Yeah, I love that. Your book comes out October 3rd, so that's going to be here sooner than we realize.
Yeah.
And in the book publishing world, that is literally right around the corner.
I know, right.
So I know you're excited, but it's been a long time in the making too. As a writer, I understand that. So everybody can go to Rachel Cruze, and that's CRUZE.com.
Yeah.
And of course, I'll put all the links /book. And they can get your first chapter, right?
Yeah.
And they can watch an amazing video that you made to talk about this. But what else would you have everybody? Of course, they have to follow you on social media. So you're everywhere. So you're on Twitter and Instagram. Right.
Yeah, as much as I seem to bash it in interviews, as I talk about this topic, I'm like, but social media's not bad. I'm on it. It's not a bad thing. But yeah, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have a YouTube channel where I do 2 videos a week of just fun money tips or whatever it is. I mean, they're kind of crazy. So I have some cooking vlogs for some recipes.
And I have made some of your recipes, by the way.
Not a great cook.
That's okay. You have a lot of fun, and that's what I love about you. You're just that's one of the things that I love about your social media account is that you are being authentic. You're being real. You're not just showing yourself, traveling around, flying first class or whatever, staying in the nice hotels, and you're showing. This is real Rachel. Love me or leave me, like it, don't click unfollow.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's fun to get
I love that.
as much money content as possible. So yeah, and I do articles on the website as well. So lots of stuff there. Yeah.
Yes, you do. So rachelcruze.com /book, or just start at rachelcruze.com and explore and see all of the things that is the amazing Rachel. So Rachel, thank you so much for doing this. Like I said, I've waited for a long time. And so when the amazing Casey, there's a shout out to Casey Dixon, who sets all this up for us. She sends me an email. She said, "Bruce, what do you think about having Rachel on your show?" I'm like, "What? That's a no-brainer." Of course, absolutely. When can we set it up? So thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule, and also I'm going to encourage everybody to try to see you live in person. You've got a full event schedule coming up.
Yeah,
so
book tour will be all through October, so all the dates will be on rachelcruze.com. But yeah, lots of cities, hitting lots of stops, and yeah, it'll be really, really fun.
Well, I appreciate you as a human being. I appreciate what you're doing to change the lives of millions of people around the world.
Oh, thank you, Bruce. Thanks for having me on. It really is an honor. Really appreciate it.
Well, that was so much fun and such a pleasure to be able to finally speak with somebody who, as I mentioned, I pretty much literally have watched her grow up, and it's fun to watch people to grow, not just in their years, but to evolve in who they were born to be. And while Rachel has another sister and a brother, she is really the only of the Ramsey children who decided to come into her father's organization and follow in, not so much in her father's footsteps, as I said, but she has a real passion for helping people put their lives back together or have a plan for their lives and for living intentionally. And so obviously our values align, and she is just one of the most authentic people that you are ever going to want to meet. And while she and I didn't know each other personally, as soon as we hopped on Skype and we had a little chat, we were looking at each other video. It was if we really had known each other all our lives and we were close family friends. And so please engage with Rachel in whatever ways you can. The links are in the show notes, but it's super easy. Just go to her website, Rachel Cruze, and that's CRUZE for cruise.com, and Rachel is RACHEL. So rachelcruze.com, and check out her new book. It's not coming out until October 3rd, but there's a big link right on her website that you can pre-order it at a discounted rate. It's $19 is the pre-order price. And in addition to that, she's throwing in a whole bunch of bonuses, some interviews, some videos, and just some really cool bonuses. So hop over to rachelcruz.com and pre-order a copy of Love Your Life, Not Theirs. And of course, there's the links to all of her social media. She is super fun to follow. So if you like Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest, and she's super popular on YouTube also, just because she's super funny and she's just fun and has this love for being alive that radiates out of her. So I hope you enjoyed our conversation and that it was helpful for you, and that you will do whatever you can within your power to not compare yourself to other people. Certainly not, and it often happens that we compare where we are to where somebody else already is. And so I could look at a Dave Ramsey, for example, and look at his huge success in podcasting and radio and public speaking, and I could say, oh, well, look at where I am now, And so if I'm comparing his doing this for 30 plus years and me having just done this for 2 years, that's a comparison that is setting me up for failure. But I know Dave's humble beginnings, and I know my humble beginnings. So if you're going to do a comparison, don't do it through social media. Do the background of somebody who you want to become more like what they are doing, and compare that person's beginning to where you are now. And I think you'll find lots of motivation to keep going, because most of the famous people in this world came from really meager or difficult circumstances and rose up out of them. So there's your motivation to learn to love your life.